The stellar energy lances struck the alien fleet with the concentrated power of Sol itself. Warlord Kexan watched in horror as his most powerful dreadnought simply vanished, their matter converted to energy in microseconds. The Eternal Conquest's shields, which had never failed in 1,000 battles, lasted exactly 3 seconds against the focused fury of a star. Kexan's final transmission before his flagship disintegrated was a single word that echoed across all frequencies. Impossible. The being who had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved entire species could not comprehend what he was seeing. The humans had not simply defeated his fleet. They had demonstrated mastery over forces that his civilization believed belonged only to gods, but humanity's demonstration of power extended far beyond the local battle. Dr. Richard Stone's network of deep space platforms activated simultaneously across hundreds of light years, each one targeting the home system of a Galactic Council member. The same stellar manipulation technology that was destroying the invasion fleet now reached out to touch the very heart of each alien empire. On the Vorthan homeworld of Cathara Prime, the twin suns that had shone steadily for millions of years suddenly began to dim. Citizens looked up at their darkening sky with growing terror as shadows fell across their great cities for the first time in recorded history. The stellar energy that should have warmed their world was being redirected by human technology they could not understand or stop. The Krellian mining worlds watched their industrial suns flicker and fade as human platforms siphoned away the energy that powered their vast extraction operations. Without stellar power, their mining equipment ground to a halt. Their orbital facilities lost life support. Their entire economy collapsed in a matter of hours. Across the galaxy, 12 different species faced the same impossible sight. Their home stars were dimming as human technology reached across space to touch the sources of all life and power in their systems. The message was unmistakable. Earth could reach any world, any fleet anywhere in the galaxy. Nowhere was safe from human retaliation. Admiral Helen Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution and watched the alien fleet disintegrate around her. The surviving vessels fled in panic, their crews broadcasting surrender messages and pleas for mercy. The beings who had come to enslave humanity now begged for their lives from the species they had dismissed as primitive. Carter activated the galactic communication network and broadcast her message to every inhabited world in Council space. This is Admiral Helen Carter of the United Federation of Earth. Let this day mark the end of galactic tyranny, built on fear and conquest. Humanity offers peace to those who desire it, but we will never again tolerate threats to our freedom or the freedom of others. The surviving alien ships scattered to every corner of the galaxy, carrying news of humanity's victory and the destruction of the great invasion fleet. On 1,000 worlds, slave species looked up at their darkening skies and began to whisper that liberation was finally possible. The masters who had ruled through superior technology and overwhelming force had been broken by beings they had considered inferior. The political aftermath was swift and complete. The Galactic Council dissolved within days as member species abandoned the alliance and sought separate peace with Earth. Ancient empires that had stood for millennia crumbled as their slave worlds declared independence and requested human protection. The balance of power that had dominated the galaxy for eons shifted permanently. Jake Morrison returned to the Crystal City on Zephyros Prime, but now the roles were completely reversed. He sat at the head of the curved black table, while representatives from 12 different species waited nervously for him to speak. The beings who had once towered over him now seemed small and frightened, their confidence shattered by humanity's demonstration of power. The terms that Morrison presented were nothing like the tribute demands the aliens had once made. Earth offered technology sharing, mutual defense treaties, and economic cooperation to any species willing to abandon conquest and slavery. Those who preferred to continue their old ways would find themselves isolated and vulnerable in a galaxy where human fleets patrolled the trade routes. The Vorthans, who had once claimed Earth as their protectorate, now requested permission to establish an embassy in human space. The Krellians offered to share their mining technology in exchange for protection from their former slaves. The Nexari Collective, reduced to a handful of surviving ships, pledged to convert their remaining facilities from slave labor to voluntary workers. Captain Lisa Harper established humanity's first joint research station in neutral space, bringing together scientists from dozens of species to work on peaceful exploration rather than military conquest. The facility was protected by human warships, but its mission was to heal the wounds of galactic civilization rather than inflict new ones. Commander Ryan Blake, who had once pretended to be amazed by alien technology, now led the integration of human and alien scientific knowledge. His months of careful observation and intelligence gathering had provided humanity with detailed understanding of every major species in the galaxy. That knowledge was now being used to build bridges rather than plan attacks. Lieutenant Sarah Kim oversaw the conversion of former slave worlds into independent colonies protected by human military guarantee. The beings who had once been property now governed themselves freely, their liberation protected by the same stellar manipulation technology that had ended the age of galactic empires. Dr. Stone's research facilities expanded beyond Earth to installations throughout human space, each one dedicated to pushing the boundaries of what was scientifically possible. The stellar manipulation technology was just the beginning. His teams were already working on projects that would allow humanity to reshape entire solar systems and create new worlds where life could flourish. The galaxy had been fundamentally changed by the revelation of human power. Species that had been enemies for centuries now cooperated under human protection. Trade routes that had been dominated by military force became peaceful corridors guarded by human patrols. Worlds that had been strip-mined for resources began to recover under human environmental restoration programs. Earth's warships dispersed throughout the galaxy, but not as conquerors seeking tribute and slaves. They served as protectors, ensuring that the old patterns of domination and exploitation could never return. Human commanders established bases in strategic locations, their presence a constant reminder that the age of galactic tyranny was over. The stars themselves seemed brighter in the new age that humanity had created. The stellar manipulation platforms that had once dimmed suns as weapons now worked to optimize stellar output for the benefit of nearby worlds. The technology that had been used to destroy fleets was now channeled toward creating energy abundance for peaceful civilizations. Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest deep space station and watched as ships from dozens of species worked together on construction projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Human engineers worked alongside alien specialists to build facilities that would benefit everyone rather than enriching a few dominant empires. The transformation was not complete and would take generations to fully accomplish. Some species still harbored resentment over their loss of power and status. Others struggled to adapt to a galaxy where strength served protection rather than conquest. But the fundamental change was irreversible. Humanity had proven that even the most entrenched systems of oppression could be overthrown by beings with sufficient determination and ingenuity. The aliens had made their fatal mistake when they underestimated humanity because of their apparent technological primitiveness. They had seen crude chemical rockets and simple weapons, never suspecting that these were deliberate deceptions designed to hide humanity's true capabilities. They had dismissed Earth as weak when it was actually preparing for the greatest military campaign in galactic history. Now the galaxy knew the truth about human beings. They were not the grateful primitives seeking protection from superior civilizations. They were apex predators who had spent decades studying their enemies and preparing for the moment when those enemies would reveal their true nature. When that moment came, humanity had been ready with weapons and tactics that changed everything. The age of empires built on conquest and fear had ended. The age of humanity had begun, and the stars would never be dark again. Fleet Admiral Zektar of the Nixari Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Earth grow larger on the main screen. His harvest fleet consisted of 200 vessels, each one capable of destroying entire cities with a single bombardment. The massive dreadnoughts moved through space like hungry predators, their weapon systems charged and ready to discourage any resistance from the primitive humans. The human defense force that came out to meet them was exactly what Zektar expected to see. 12 old frigates and one aging carrier called the USS Liberty arranged themselves in a pathetic defensive formation. Their weapons were simple kinetic cannons that fired metal projectiles. Their shields were basic energy barriers that any decent plasma cannon could penetrate in seconds. Zektar felt amused by the sight. These humans actually thought they could oppose his fleet with such crude vessels. He had conquered dozens of worlds with far better defenses than this. The humans would surrender quickly once he demonstrated the power of Nexari weapons, and then his ships could begin collecting the slaves they had come for. The human carrier transmitted a message on standard frequencies. Admiral Helen Carter appeared on the screen, wearing a simple blue uniform with few decorations. She looked calm and confident, which Zektar found puzzling. Surely this human understood that resistance was hopeless. "This is Admiral Carter of the United Federation of Earth," she said. "I am formally notifying you that humanity rejects the Galactic Council's demands for tribute. We will not surrender our people to serve as slaves in your facilities. If you attempt to take them by force, we will defend ourselves." Zektar made a sound like grinding metal that passed for laughter among his species. "Admiral Carter, you are either very brave or very foolish. My fleet carries enough firepower to crack your planet's crust. Your 12 ships cannot hope to stand against us. Surrender now, and I will limit the bombardment to military targets only." Carter smiled, which surprised Zektar. Why would she seem pleased when facing certain destruction? "Admiral Zektar, you're about to learn something important about human beings. We do not surrender when we are threatened. We fight back and we fight to win." The communication ended and Zektar prepared to give the order for attack. His weapons officers reported that all systems were ready. The human ships would be destroyed in the first salvo, and then his forces could proceed with their mission. It would be over in minutes, then something impossible happened. The space around Luna began to shimmer and twist as if reality itself was bending. New ships emerged from what looked like empty vacuum, their hulls so dark they seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. These vessels moved with a grace and speed that defied everything Zektar knew about space combat. Captain Alex Turner commanded the lead destroyer, a ship called the UFS Vengeance that looked nothing like the crude human vessels the aliens had observed. Its hull was smooth and angular, designed to deflect both energy weapons and sensor scans. As it accelerated toward the Nexari fleet, it seemed to phase in and out of normal space like a ghost. Zektar ordered his weapons officers to open fire, but the targeting computers could not lock onto the human ships. The destroyers moved too fast and seemed to exist in multiple locations at once. When the Nexari plasma cannons finally fired, the energy beams passed harmlessly through empty space where the targets had been moments before. The first human weapon to fire was unlike anything in galactic databases. A beam of pure energy struck the Nexari cruiser Devourer and passed completely through its shields as if they were not there. The massive alien vessel simply came apart, its hull splitting open and spilling atmosphere and crew into the vacuum of space. Commander Rachel Brooks piloted her stealth fighter through the Nexari formation, her ship invisible to their sensors until the moment she fired. Her quantum torpedoes appeared inside the shield perimeters of 3 different vessels simultaneously, detonating with the force of small stars. The explosions lit up the solar system and sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. More human ships continued to emerge from their hiding places throughout the solar system. They came from behind asteroids, from the shadows of planets, and from dimensions that the aliens did not even know existed. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, designed specifically to destroy the types of ships the Galactic Council used for conquest. The USS Liberty, which had seemed like an obsolete carrier, suddenly revealed its true nature. Hangar bays opened along its hull and released hundreds of fighters that moved like angry insects. These small craft swarmed around the larger Nexari vessels, their weapons targeting critical systems with surgical precision. Captain Daniel Foster led a squadron of human bombers against the Nexari command ship. His pilots flew their craft directly into the alien point defense fire, accepting losses to deliver their payloads to the target. The explosions that followed turned the massive dreadnought into an expanding cloud of debris. Zektar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed by an enemy that should not have existed. The humans were using technology that was centuries ahead of anything in Galactic Council databases. Their weapons penetrated shields that had protected fleets for thousands of years. Their ships moved in ways that violated the known laws of physics. The battle was not even close. For every human vessel destroyed, 10 Nexari ships died in return. The aliens who had come to collect slaves found themselves fighting for their very survival against an enemy they had completely underestimated. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake, who had spent months pretending to be impressed by Vorthon technology, now commanded a human cruiser that was systematically hunting down alien escape pods. He had learned exactly where to strike each type of vessel, to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. His months of deception were paying off in the most devastating way possible. Sarah Kim, the demolitions expert who had worked on the Krellian mining platform, activated hidden explosives throughout the alien facilities in human space. The Krellians had built their installations using information provided by their human workers, never suspecting that those same workers were placing charges in critical locations. As the Nexari fleet disintegrated around him, Admiral Zektar realized that everything the Galactic Council believed about humanity was wrong. These beings were not primitive savages grateful for alien protection. They were apex predators who had been hunting their enemies from the shadows for decades. His flagship took hit after hit from human weapons that seemed to ignore his defensive systems. The bridge filled with smoke and sparks as control panels exploded around him. His crew lay dead or dying at their stations. The mighty Nexari collective, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was being destroyed by a species they had dismissed as harmless. Zektar managed to record one final transmission before his ship's reactor went critical. Council Command, this is Fleet Admiral Zektar. The humans have been deceiving us. Their true military capability exceeds our worst projections. They are using technology we do not understand. Request immediate reinforcement from all member worlds. The transmission cut off as the flagship exploded in a ball of plasma that could be seen from Earth's surface. Of the 200 vessels that had come to collect human slaves, fewer than 30 survived to carry the news back to the Galactic Council. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of her command ship and watched the alien survivors flee into hyperspace. The revelation was complete. Humanity had shown its true strength, and the galaxy would never be the same. Warlord Kexon of the Vorthan Empire received the survivors' reports with growing fury. His mandibles clicked together as he studied the tactical data from the destroyed Nexari fleet. The humans had not simply won a battle. They had demonstrated technology that threatened the very foundation of Galactic Council power. The emergency session of the Council lasted for 3 days as representatives from all 12 species analyzed the shocking revelation. The beings who had dismissed humanity as primitive savages now faced the terrifying reality that they had been completely deceived. The humans possessed weapons that could penetrate any known defense in ships that moved faster than anything in their fleets. The decision was unanimous. Humanity had to be destroyed immediately before they could spread their dangerous technology to other species or inspire rebellions among the Council's slave worlds. Every available warship from all 12 empires would converge on Earth's solar system for the largest military operation in galactic history. Kex assembled the invasion fleet at the edge of human space. 3,000 vessels of war gathered in formation, representing the combined might of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with planet-killing weapons. Carrier ships launched clouds of fighters. Battle cruisers charged their main guns and prepared for total war. The warlord's flagship was the Eternal Conquest, a vessel so large it could be seen with the naked eye from planetary surfaces. Its weapons could shatter continents, and its shields had never been breached in 1,000 battles. Kexon stood in its command center and prepared to lead the charge that would end the human threat forever. What he found when the fleet jumped into the Sol system made him question everything he knew about warfare. The humans were not hiding behind their planets or cowering in defensive positions. Instead, Admiral Helen Carter had brought her entire fleet out to meet the alien invasion in open space. Human vessels filled the void from the asteroid belt to the outer planets. They moved in perfect formations that demonstrated tactical coordination beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. The USS Retribution, a dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest council ships, served as the flagship of a force that numbered in the thousands. General Patricia Wells broadcast from Earth's surface. Her message carried to every alien vessel in the system. You came to our home seeking slaves and tribute. You thought we were weak because we appeared primitive. Now you will learn why humanity survived every catastrophe our world could throw at us. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We fight until victory or death. The Battle of Sol began with a coordinated assault by the alien vanguard. 100 Vorthon attack ships charged toward Earth's orbital platforms, their weapons blazing. They expected the humans to fall back and try to defend their homeworld from fortified positions. Instead, Colonel Marcus Webb led the platform defenses in a counterattack that caught the aliens completely off guard. Hidden weapons batteries revealed themselves throughout Earth's orbital space. creating a killing field that no ship could survive. The Vorthon assault force was annihilated before it could reach its targets. Captain Elizabeth Stone commanded a squadron of human bombers that dove straight into the heart of the alien formation. Her pilots flew their craft with a reckless courage that amazed and terrified their enemies. They accepted massive casualties to deliver their payloads to the most dangerous targets, trading their lives to protect Earth and humanity's future. The battle raged across the entire solar system, as both fleets committed everything they had to the fight. Human railguns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds that punched through the heaviest armor. Alien plasma cannons superheated sections of space until they glowed like miniature stars. Explosions lit up the void as ships on both sides died in fire and metal. The Krellian Dominion's flagship, the Iron Harvest, attempted to ram the human carrier USS Defiance when its weapons proved ineffective against human shields. Captain Linda Hayes ordered her crew to abandon ship moments before the collision, but she stayed at her post to guide the carrier's final moments. The two massive vessels destroyed each other in an explosion that could be seen from Mars. Vorthon suicide fighters overwhelmed the defense grid around Mars, breaking through human lines to strike at the orbital facilities where civilians had taken shelter. The attack succeeded, but the cost was enormous. For every human life lost, the aliens paid with 10 of their own ships and crews. Captain Daniel Foster found himself surrounded by enemy vessels with no hope of escape. His ship's weapons were exhausted, his shields were failing, and his crew was wounded and dying around him. Rather than surrender, he made a decision that would be remembered forever in human military history. Foster ordered his ship's reactor to overload and steered directly toward the Nexari command vessel that coordinated the alien fleet's tactical operations. His final transmission was simple: for Earth and humanity. Explosion that followed vaporized both ships and sent shock waves through the alien formation that disrupted their attack. Patterns for precious minutes. The tide of battle shifted back and forth as both sides took massive casualties. Human technology gave them an edge in individual combat, but the aliens had overwhelming numbers and centuries of military experience. It became clear that this would be a war of attrition, where victory would go to whoever could endure the most punishment. Admiral Carter watched the battle reports from her command ship and realized that conventional tactics would not be enough. The aliens were willing to sacrifice entire fleets to destroy humanity, and they had enough ships to eventually overwhelm even the superior human defenses. She would have to use the weapon that Dr. Richard Stone had been perfecting in absolute secrecy. The order went out on secure channels to every human vessel and installation throughout the solar system. All units execute Operation Solar Flare. Authorization code Omega 77. Make them remember this day for the rest of their species' existence. Across human space, installations that the aliens had dismissed as mining platforms or research stations began to reveal their true purpose. These were stellar manipulation devices, massive constructs designed to focus and redirect the energy output of stars themselves. The technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, representing humanity's ultimate expression of their mastery over the forces of nature. Sol itself began to change as the human installations came online. The star's light started to dim and focus, its energy being channeled and concentrated into beams of destruction that could reach across impossible distances. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to face primitive weapons and crude tactics. Instead, they found themselves confronting beings who could harness the power of stars. Kexon watched from his flagship as the impossible became reality. The humans were not just defending their world with advanced technology. They were demonstrating the power to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe itself. His species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but they had never encountered anything like this. The focused stellar energy began to lance out across space, targeting the heart of the alien fleet with beams that burned hotter than the core of any planet. Ships that had survived the fires of 1,000 battles simply ceased to exist. Vaporized by concentrated stellar plasma, the humans had turned their own star into a weapon, and nothing in the galaxy could stand against such power. Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the Vorthon research vessel and tried to look amazed by their technology. The alien ship was impressive, with smooth walls that pulsed with energy and control panels that responded to thought commands. The Vorthon crew members moved around him with their forearms working different tasks at once. They seemed proud to show off their advanced systems to the primitive human. Your fusion reactors are quite remarkable, Ryan said, watching as a Vorthon engineer explained their power systems. We could never build something so efficient on Earth. He made sure to sound humble and grateful. The aliens liked it when humans acted impressed by their superior knowledge. What the Vorthons did not know was that Ryan Blake had been trained to memorize every detail he saw. His enhanced memory could record technical specifications, crew numbers, weapon locations, and defensive capabilities. While he pretended to be a simple human observer, he was actually gathering intelligence that would soon prove very valuable. The Vorthons freely shared their technology because they saw no threat in doing so. How could beings who still used chemical rockets possibly understand their advanced systems? They enjoyed having someone to impress with their achievements. Ryan asked questions that made him seem curious but harmless. He acted like a child being shown adult tools he could never hope to use. Back on Earth, Admiral Helen Carter watched the construction of humanity's real fleet from her command center deep underground. Massive screens showed the progress at hidden shipyards on the dark side of Luna. Thousands of workers labored around the clock, building vessels that would soon change the balance of power in the galaxy. The ships taking shape in those secret facilities looked nothing like the crude vessels the aliens had observed. These were sleek predators designed for speed, stealth, and devastating firepower. Their hulls were made from materials that could absorb sensor scans. Their weapon systems used technology that had been developed in complete secrecy for over 50 years. Dr. Richard Stone stood in his laboratory beneath the Colorado mountains and smiled at his latest creation. The quantum torpedo in front of him was small enough to hold in his hands, but it contained enough destructive power to crack a moon in half. His team had spent decades perfecting weapons that could penetrate any known shield technology. The aliens had been kind enough to provide samples of their defensive systems during the cultural exchanges. They never suspected that every piece of technology they shared was being studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Human scientists had taken alien innovations and made them better through methods the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Lisa Harper commanded Earth's first official deep space station, a small facility that the aliens considered barely worthy of notice. What they did not see were the hidden sensor arrays that monitored every ship movement in the solar system. They missed the concealed weapons platforms that could target vessels millions of miles away. They ignored the communication networks that connected Earth to secret bases throughout human space. Jake Morrison continued his diplomatic work, establishing trade agreements and cultural programs with various alien species. He visited their worlds, toured their facilities, and met their leaders. Everyone he encountered saw him as a harmless representative of a weak species that was grateful for galactic protection. During these visits, Jake gathered vital intelligence about alien military capabilities, political tensions, and strategic weaknesses. He learned that the 12 species in the Galactic Council maintained their alliance through fear rather than friendship. Each empire watched the others carefully, ready to strike if they showed any sign of weakness. The Krellian Dominion controlled the galaxy's largest mining operations, but had weak defensive fleets. The Nexari Collective possessed powerful weapons but relied on slave labor that could rebel if given the chance. The Vorthon Empire had the strongest military but was spread thin across too many territories. Every species had vulnerabilities that could be exploited by someone clever enough to find them. Lieutenant Sarah Kim worked aboard a Krellian mining platform in the Tau Ceti system, officially learning their extraction techniques for Earth's benefit. The Krellians treated her like a simple student, showing her how they stripped resources from conquered worlds. They never suspected that she was actually mapping their entire operation and identifying critical weak points. Sarah discovered that the Krellians were planning to expand their mining operations to Earth's asteroid belt. They wanted to extract rare metals that they claimed humanity was too primitive to use properly. The mining platform she worked on would be part of the fleet sent to exploit human space. What the Krellians did not know was that Sarah Kim was a demolitions expert with the training to destroy their entire facility. Her innocent questions about safety protocols were actually reconnaissance for future sabotage operations. She smiled and nodded as they explained their security systems, memorizing every detail that would help her team eliminate the threat. All across human space, similar operations were taking place. Human technicians worked alongside alien crews, learning their procedures while secretly preparing to turn their own systems against them. Human diplomats attended alien social gatherings, gathering intelligence while appearing to enjoy the hospitality. The deception was perfect because the aliens could not imagine that such a primitive species could threaten them. They saw what they expected to see: grateful humans who were awed by superior alien technology and culture. They missed the careful observations, the hidden recordings, and the secret communications that were mapping their entire civilization for future conquest. 6 months after the initial contact, the aliens felt confident that humanity was properly under their control. The Vorthans began making demands for tribute payments. The Krellians announced plans to establish mining operations in human space. The Nexari Collective requested that Earth provide workers for their labor camps. The first real test came when the Nexari demanded 50,000 human colonists for what they called a cultural exchange program. Jake Morrison knew it was actually a plan to enslave human workers in their industrial facilities. The Nexari had done this to dozens of other species over the centuries. Jake requested a 2-week delay to prepare the volunteers, claiming that Earth needed time to select the best candidates for this honor. The Nexari agreed, pleased that the humans were being so cooperative. They began assembling a massive fleet to collect their new slaves. What they did not realize was that those 2 weeks would give Admiral Carter's hidden fleet time to move into position. Human ships that had been waiting in the outer darkness began their approach toward Earth. Weapon systems that had been tested in secret were brought online. Soldiers who had trained for decades prepared for the battle that would decide humanity's fate. The aliens thought they were about to collect a tribute from a conquered species. Instead, they were walking into a trap that would show them the true nature of human beings. The age of deception was about to end, and the real war was about to begin. Jake Morrison walked through the crystal corridors of Zephyros Prime, his boots making soft echoes on the smooth floor. The alien world sparkled around him like a giant diamond, its buildings reaching toward the purple sky. He carried a simple briefcase and wore his best uniform, but he felt very small in this place. The other beings here were much larger and stranger than anything he had seen before. The Galactic Council chamber sat at the heart of the Crystal City. Jake entered through massive doors that opened by themselves. Inside, 12 different alien species waited around a curved black table. Their eyes turned to watch him as he took his seat. Some had multiple arms, others had scales that changed color, and a few looked like walking insects. They all seemed to tower over him even when sitting down. The Vorthon ambassador spoke first. Its voice sounded like grinding metal. "The human representative has arrived," it said, clicking its mandibles together. "We can begin the formal evaluation of Earth's entry into our council." The creature stood 7 feet tall with a hard shell that reflected the chamber's lights. Its forearms moved as it gestured toward Jake. "Their technology assessment shows primitive chemical rockets and basic fusion drives. Their largest ship carries only 300 crew members." Other aliens around the table made sounds that might have been laughter. The Krellian delegate, a being covered in purple fur with 6 legs, tapped the table with its claws. "Their weapons fire metal projectiles using explosive powders," it said. "Most amusing. We have not seen such crude methods in over 1,000 cycles." Jake sat quietly and listened. He knew they expected him to be impressed and grateful. These beings controlled vast territories across the galaxy. Their ships could destroy planets. Their technology was far beyond what Earth appeared to have. He was supposed to feel honored that they would even consider accepting humanity into their group. The Nexari Collective's representative spoke next. It looked like a floating jellyfish made of silver metal. Its voice came from speakers built into its body. "The humans have only one inhabited world," it said. "Their population is small and confined to their home planet. They could serve useful purposes in our mining operations and agricultural programs." More clicking and humming filled the chamber. Jake watched as the aliens discussed his species like they were talking about livestock. The Zelthari Empire's delegate suggested that humans would make good workers because they seemed hardy and adaptable. The Morphic Alliance thought Earth's location would make a nice rest stop for their trading fleets. Jake opened his briefcase and pulled out a data pad. "If I may," he said, standing up. The chamber fell quiet, all eyes focused on him. "Earth is honored by your consideration for membership in the Galactic Council. We understand that we have much to learn from your advanced civilizations." The Vorthon ambassador made what might have been a pleased sound. "Good, the human shows proper respect. This will make the transition easier." It turned to address the other delegates. We propose that Earth becomes a junior member world under Vorthon guidance. They will provide resources and labor in exchange for protection and gradual technology sharing. Jake nodded as if he was pleased with this offer. Inside, he felt a chill run down his spine. He had read the files about what happened to other junior member worlds. Their populations became workers for the more powerful species. Their resources were stripped away. Their freedom disappeared piece by piece until they became nothing more than property. The other aliens quickly agreed to the Vorthon proposal. Nobody asked Jake what he thought about it. They simply announced that the decision was made. Earth would be incorporated into the Council as a protected world under Vorthon oversight. Jake would sign the documents and humanity would begin its new role in galactic civilization. As Jake signed his name on the crystalline tablets, his datapad quietly received a secure message. The text appeared to be routine diplomatic correspondence, but Jake knew the hidden code. General Patricia Wells had sent him the signal he was waiting for. 3 simple words that changed everything. Operation Dark Sky. Jake finished signing the documents and shook hands, claws, and tentacles with the alien delegates. They seemed pleased with themselves. The humans had been properly categorized and assigned their place in the galactic order. They would extract what they wanted from Earth while keeping humanity under control. What the aliens did not know was that Jake Morrison was more than just a diplomat. He was a highly trained intelligence officer who had spent months studying every species in this chamber. He knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and their military capabilities. More importantly, he knew that everything they believed about Earth was wrong. The real human fleet was not the handful of slow ships they had observed. Those were decoys, designed to make humanity look weak and primitive. The real weapons were not simple metal projectiles fired by chemical explosives. They were something far more dangerous, something that would shock these arrogant beings to their core. As Jake left the chamber, he activated a small device hidden in his uniform. The signal traveled instantly through subspace to receivers placed throughout the galaxy. On Luna, Admiral Helen Carter received the message and began giving orders. In the asteroid belt, construction crews working in hidden facilities increased their pace. In deep space, human ships that had been waiting in the dark began moving toward their assigned positions. The aliens thought they had just acquired a new servant species. They believed Earth would quietly submit to their authority and provide whatever resources they demanded. They were confident that their superior technology and vast fleets made them untouchable. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. Every probe that had returned from deep space carried more than scientific data. Every cultural exchange had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every act of human submission had been carefully calculated deception. The Galactic Council had made their first mistake when they underestimated humanity. It would also be their last. Jake Morrison smiled as he walked back through the crystal corridors, knowing that the real war was about to begin.